Your presence here today, July 14th, is no algorithmic coincidence. If you pay attention to the last 3 days, you will recognize a pattern, a restlessness that has no name, thoughts that keep returning to the same point, a physical sensation that something is about to turn, even without any concrete proof of it. Perhaps you woke up in the middle of the night for no reason. Perhaps you felt the urge to end conversations, to clean your house, to delete things from your phone that no longer make sense. This is not fatigue, this is not stress. This is the body recognizing before the mind that the sky is about to reach a turning point, and today that point has a name: New Moon. The promise of this video is simple and direct. You will understand exactly what the ancients knew about this exact type of darkness, why they organized their entire lives around it, and what it means in a practical way for the cycle that is closing within you right now. Before anything else, a distinction must be made because it will determine whether you leave this video with just information or with direction. Faced with an event like today's, humanity has always been divided into 2 groups, and this has not changed in thousands of years. The first group, the majority, will feel exactly the same energy that you are feeling, the heaviness, the restlessness, the desire to change something, only they will attribute it all to small explanations. They will blame work, lack of sleep, a silly misunderstanding, just a bad day. They will feel the door opening and will close their eyes, thinking it is just exhaustion. For them, the window will pass them by, as it always has. And tomorrow, everything will go back to being exactly the same. The second group is small. It is formed by people who, for some reason, have developed the ability to perceive when a cycle is ending, even before it actually ends. It is not a mystical gift. It is an internal structure. It is the difference between someone who feels the sea change and stays lying on the sand, and someone who feels the sea change and is already standing up, looking at the horizon. If you have made it this far and are still watching, it is because, like it or not, you belong to this second group. The question that remains is not whether you will feel this window. You are already feeling it. It is what you are going to do with it. And here it is important to clear up an old misunderstanding. A portal is not an astronomical event. A portal is the exact point at which the cost of remaining trapped in your current life becomes greater than the fear of taking the next step. No one receives permission from the universe to change. No one waits for a light to descend from the sky and resolve what is stagnant. What happens is more raw and more honest than that. You take the step, and only then does the ground appear beneath your feet. Never before. Today's new moon will not do anything for you. It is only creating the background conditions, the silence, the darkness, the void, so that the decision you have been putting off becomes impossible to ignore. Ancient civilizations understood this with a clarity that modern life, full of artificial light and notifications, has practically erased. To the Egyptians, the sky was not a nighttime decoration, it was a reading system. Priests and astronomers recorded the movements of the moon with obsessive precision, because they knew that each phase carried a different instruction for life on Earth. The full moon was for harvesting, for celebrating, for exposing. The new moon was for gathering, for reviewing, for preparing in silence what had no form yet. It was not superstition. It was observation repeated over generations, turned into a method. The Maya took this to an even more rigorous level. They built entire calendars, temples aligned with millimeter precision to celestial events, because they understood that human time and cosmic time needed to be synchronized, or life would lose its way. For these cultures, the sky was a language, and those who did not learn to read it lived like someone walking blindfolded on a path that, in truth, was signposted the whole time. What those civilizations knew, and what most people today have completely forgotten, is that the great cycles of nature are not cute metaphors. They are maps for action. When the moon disappeared from the sky, it was not a cause for panic. It was clear instruction. Stop, look inward. Prepare what comes next before you act. And it is exactly here, at this point, between recognizing the sign and not knowing what to do with it, that most people get stuck. They feel the restlessness. They know something needs to change, but they lack the structure. They lack a step-by-step path to turn that feeling into real direction. This is the exact gap that led me to prepare Magia M28 Exercicios as 28 chaves do despertar for you. It is not a theoretical course on spirituality. It is a 28-day journey, exactly the duration of a full lunar cycle, designed to take you from silent restlessness to the clear recognition of the soul's signs, from the integration of your shadow to practical direction for your life. If you feel lost, different, overwhelmed by a sensitivity that no one around you seems to understand, this journey transforms that overload into language, and that language into decision. The window opening today will not wait for you to organize your life on your own. It demands structure now. The first pinned comment on this video takes you straight into Magia M28 Exercicios. Comment pronto if you feel that this 28-day cycle has already begun within you, even if it doesn't have a name yet. Returning to what the darkness of this night truly represents, there is a huge difference between emptiness and absence. Modern culture has taught you to fear the dark, to fill every silence with sound, every pause with a screen. But the ancients understood darkness in another way, almost the opposite. To them, the absence of light during the new moon was not an end. It was the fertile space where everything that does not yet exist can begin to take shape. Think of a seed. Before any visible sprout, it needs to spend time in complete darkness inside the earth, without sun, without contact with the air. If you were to dig up that seed in the middle of the process, thinking that nothing is happening, you would destroy the very process that would lead it to become a plant. The darkness of the new moon works the same way within you. The period when you feel most lost, most silent, most disconnected from the outside world is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is being formed beneath the surface, at a rhythm that the rational mind cannot rush. This explains why so many people feel in the days leading up to a new moon a kind of exhaustion that doesn't match their external routine. You may be sleeping well, eating well, without any concrete stressful event, and yet still feel a weight, an urge to withdraw, to cancel appointments, to stay in silence longer than usual. This is the body entering into synchrony with the creative void. Most will interpret this as laziness, as a failure, as a problem to be corrected with more coffee, more stimulus, more distraction. But those who understand the pattern know this withdrawal is preparation, not stagnation. It is the inner silence necessary before any real birth, whether it be a decision, a change of direction, the end of a relationship that no longer serves you, or the beginning of a project you have been putting off for years out of fear. Ancient rituals of renewal existed precisely to give form to this invisible process. In practically all cultures that studied the sky with attention, the new moon was treated as a moment of purification. Ritual baths, symbolic fasts, the burning of objects or papers representing what needed to be left behind. Not because the burning itself had magical power, but because the physical gesture helped the mind do something that it, on its own with just thought, could hardly manage: to truly close a chapter. The meditation in silence under the dark skies, the prolonged observation of the stars without any artificial light competing for attention, the setting of specific intentions for the new cycle, all of this composed a deliberate system of synchronization between human life and the greater rhythms of the universe. These peoples were not trying to escape reality through mysticism. They were doing the opposite. They were using the sky as an external and reliable reference to organize internal decisions, in an era when no other orientation technology existed. And it is exactly this type of structure, this system of synchronization between external cycle and internal decision, that is missing in the lives of most people today. Feeling that something needs to change without having a method to transform this feeling into concrete action is like having a map without a compass. You know a destination exists, but you do not know how to guide your own steps. It was precisely by recognizing this gap, time and again, in people as sensitive as they were lost regarding their own direction, that Magia M28 Exercicios was designed following the exact logic of these ancient rituals. 28 days, a full lunar cycle, with daily exercises that replace the "I think I need to change" with a guided process of recognition, integration, and action. There is no more time to postpone this structure, until when life calms down, because life will not calm down on its own. It will continue repeating the same pattern until you decide to interrupt the cycle on purpose. The first pinned comment remains the direct path to Magia M28 Exercicios, and this specific window, today's, will not repeat itself in the same way. With this foundation built, the understanding of the void as a fertile space and of rituals as a bridge between sky and decision, it becomes easier to understand why observing celestial cycles has the power to awaken something that the daily routine keeps dormant: consciousness of one's own life. There is a difference between living reactively and living observantly. Most people spend decades in reaction mode, reacting to emails, to demands, to external expectations, to constant comparisons, without ever stopping long enough to ask if that path still makes sense. The simple act of raising one's eyes to the sky, of recognizing that there is a rhythm much greater than your own happening up there, independent of deadlines and social media, has an almost immediate effect of repositioning. Suddenly, the problem that seemed giant yesterday seems smaller. The decision you had been putting off seems more urgent, not because the world changed, but because you stepped out, for an instant, of autopilot. That is why so many traditions associate the observation of the sky with the idea of awakening. It is not a dramatic, movie-like awakening with lights and instant revelations. It is a silent awakening, almost uncomfortable at first, because it requires you to look at old patterns you had been repeating without realizing it. Relationships you keep for fear of being alone. Work you accept for fear of financial instability. Silences you swallow for fear of conflict. The new moon, by emptying the sky of light, creates the perfect conditions for these patterns, normally hidden under the noise of daily life, to become visible. If you have felt, in recent days, a strange and uncomfortable clarity about things you would prefer not to see in your own life, that is no coincidence. This is exactly the mechanism the ancients described when they spoke of the new moon as a mirror. It does not create your patterns. It only removes the excess light that normally disguises them. If you felt this while reading these last lines, this is the moment to declare it openly, because naming a pattern is the first step to breaking it. Comment Desperté if you recognize now a specific pattern that today's darkness has made visible. This comment is not just an interaction, it is an energetic marker, a way of recording for yourself that this recognition has taken place and can no longer be ignored. This newly awakened consciousness only has real value if it is translated into a practical message for life, as it is today, not as it was thousands of years ago. Ancestral wisdom about lunar cycles is useless if it remains isolated as a historical curiosity. The true invitation of today's new moon is to reclaim, within a modern routine full of noise, small moments of genuine silence, not the silence of a phone in airplane mode for 5 minutes, but true silence, where you allow yourself to be alone with your own thoughts without escaping from them through series, infinite scrolling or small talk. It is uncomfortable at first because silence reveals exactly what distraction had been hiding. But it is in this specific discomfort that the most valuable information about the next step you need to take resides. The core message that permeates every culture that has studied the sky with seriousness is always the same, stated in different ways. Great external transformations always begin, without exception, within the mind and consciousness first. No one changes their life from the outside in. A person changes jobs after changing their mindset about their own worth. A person ends a relationship that doesn't serve them after recognizing internally that they deserve more than that. External action is always the final visible stage of an internal process that has already been happening, often silently and invisibly, for weeks or months. Today's new moon is exactly this kind of internal turning point, taking symbolic form in the sky, and recognizing this is the difference between passing this date like any other or using it as the marker where a new direction truly began. And it is exactly at this point, between recognizing the message and taking real action on it, that most people get stuck again, because recognizing a pattern internally and knowing step by step how to dismantle it are two completely different things. You can spend years knowing that you need to integrate your own shadow, knowing that you carry signs you never had the space to decipher, and still remain in exactly the same place, because you lack the structured process that transforms perception into concrete change. This is the exact bridge that Major EM28 Exercicios builds, a full 28-day lunar cycle day by day, taking you from recognizing the sign to integrating the shadow, to transforming all of this into practical direction and real decisions for your life. Not a year from now, not when life calms down, but within the next lunar cycle that is already beginning with today's darkness. You don't have to stay trapped between knowing you need to change and not knowing how. The first pinned comment leads you straight into the journey. The window is open now, and lunar cycles do not wait for those who hesitate. This leads us to the most important point of everything said so far, because knowledge without choice changes nothing. Every new moon, including today's, functions exactly like a decision point, not imposed from the outside, but offered silently as a question only you can answer. The question is simple to state and difficult to face. What in your current life no longer represents who you are becoming? It could be an old belief about what you deserve. It could be a relationship kept by habit, not by choice. It could be a version of yourself, built to please others, that long ago ceased to be true. Today's darkness does not demand an immediate answer out loud to anyone but yourself, but it does demand honesty, and honesty, when truly confronted, always calls for movement. The ancients understood the new moon as a symbol of rebirth, precisely because a true rebirth does not happen without something first having to die. There is no new sprout without the old seed breaking down first. There is no new version of you without consciously leaving behind the version that no longer serves. This is not a tragedy. It is the natural order, the same order that governs the tides, the seasons, and the very cycle of the moon that has repeated for billions of years without ever failing. You are embedded in this same rhythm, whether you acknowledge it or not. The only real choice left is whether you will move through this cycle consciously, with direction, or if you will let it roll over you like just another month, indistinguishable from all the others. If you have made it this far, paying real attention to every word, you can no longer say you didn't know. The sign has been named, the pattern has been pointed out, the structure has been offered. What remains now is the part no one else can do for you, taking the first step, even without a guarantee of what comes next. Trusting that, as always happens when someone truly decides to walk through a portal, the ground will appear as soon as your foot touches the void. If you are ready to transform this new moon night into the starting point of your own 28-day cycle, the path is right there, in the first pinned comment. It is not about waiting for the right energy. The right energy is now, and it will not repeat itself in exactly this way again. Before you leave, or before you simply let this video roll on to the next one, understand one last thing about how this channel works. Each video here is not isolated content, thrown randomly into the algorithm. Each video is a specific coordinate within a much larger map, built throughout the entire year, following every portal, every energetic window, every turning point the sky presents to those who are paying attention. If you are not subscribed, you will continue to receive only loose fragments of this map, never seeing the complete picture. The upcoming videos reveal exactly what happens after today's new moon, how this energy will unfold in the following weeks, and missing this sequence means missing the entire context of the moment you are living in right now. What you have heard up to this point was the preparation. It was the recognition of the sign, the understanding of the darkness, the structure of the ancient rituals, and the question that only you can answer. But the final revelation about what this exact moment means for your new life, the next real step after this turning point, is in the video appearing on your screen right now. Click on it. The first 60 seconds will change the way you see your own timeline from today forward.